Okay, so I was on Amazon the other day, just looking up raw food books, just to kind of see the state of things. You know, I've said before that it seems like the raw food movement has kind of died mostly. I mean, pretty much every raw food person I can think of who I knew or was familiar with when I was raw is no longer raw. So, yeah. So I was just looking to see if there were any new books, just to kind of see what was going on. And there were a few that came out in the last couple of years or so. Most of them had like 3 reviews, so, you know, probably not very many sales. But one book that came up, of course, was Fully Raw, Christina's book that came out, I think in 2016. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then Amazon was like, hey, you can read this book for free with a 30-day trial to Kindle Unlimited. And I was like, all right. So here we are. So the book is actually a 21-day meal plan. It's got a bunch of recipes. It's got exercise info too, and like what to do every day for exercise. It's got some like personal anecdotes from Christina. There's even a short appendix at the end called Raw Science. So first, some good things about the book. There's a really nice short little story about why Christina gave up meat when she was a teenager, I think. She went to this little village where they killed their own animals, and she bonded with these chickens, and then they were like, yo, you gotta kill the chickens for dinner tonight, and she couldn't do it. She had to have someone else do it, and she cried about it. It's like a really nice little story. I think it's something that a lot of vegetarians can relate to, maybe not having to kill their own food, but having some sort of experience like that with animals. I think that's pretty common. She also says that you need to supplement B12 if you're on a vegan diet, so that's really good. The exercise stuff seems pretty good. You know, it's fairly generic, but it's good. It's like get some cardio, you know, go for a walk, do some strength training, do some stretching if you want. Pretty basic. So now for some of the kind of WTF parts of the book that stuck out to me, and then I'll get on to the actual diet plan. So of course, Christina starts the book with a bunch of really vague, nebulous benefits. Even including just one fully raw meal a day reaps tons of benefits. And once you do that, within a week, you will feel your energy increase, your skin clear, your digestion improve, and your spirits soar. Which is really shitty to say. Like, there's no guarantee that eating this way is going to improve your digestion, improve your skin, for instance. In fact, 2 common complaints that people have eating this way, eating a low-fat like fruit-based diet, like what Christina recommends. 2 of the common complaints that people have is like digestion issues, bloating and gas, and acne. Another big problem is that she promotes 80-10-10. The diet basically is 80-10-10, which she says that Fully Raw follows the outline of the 80-10-10 diet by Doug Graham. 80-10-10 stands for a minimum of 80% of calories coming from carbs, a maximum of 10% coming from fat, and a maximum of 10% coming from protein. She talks about Doug Graham throughout the book, which sucks because he's kind of a horrible human being. She also talks about how Fully Raw is affordable. It's probably not surprising to you if you've, been on her channel. She had a whole video that I talked about where she called it affordable, and it was like $600 a month for one person, something like that. Yeah, okay. One of my favorite quotes on that topic in the book is this one where she's talking about eating, a bunch of produce, in this case, a bunch of grapes. All of those grapes will be consumed in just 8 or 10 meals over 3 to 4 days, and you will have spent less than $2 on ingredients. Yeah, but it's $2 for grapes. That's like saying that a meal of white rice that costs just $2 is affordable. Like, yeah, it's cheap, but it's not healthy. It's not providing you with anywhere close to the nutrients that you need. It doesn't matter if a diet is affordable if it's not healthy. Buy in bulk to save money. This is common. If you know anything about raw foods, you will often hear people say this, to buy like cases of fruit instead of just buying like by the pound at your grocery store or whatever, that you'll save money if you buy by the case. Sure, you can, but this only works if you have money to do this. Like, if you are struggling financially, if you are living paycheck to paycheck, you probably don't have the money on hand at any given moment to just buy a huge case of food. So yeah, it only really works for people who have that extra money to spend. And also, when I ate this way, I had very little luck buying things in bulk. I talked to produce managers at just like the Kroger near me and some other Krogers as well, and they were really hesitant to do it. They had like some things that they would sell by the case, but it was only like during certain times, and I had to talk to like a specific person to do it. And even like then the savings were not that great. I actually went to a distributor, the people who sell the food like to the retailers, to the grocery stores. I talked to a bunch. I called like everyone in my area. They either didn't answer, or they were like, no, we don't sell it to the public. One did, and I went over there and they gave me a price list. And again, the prices were not better than just the grocery store. There was one smaller chain of grocery stores that I think actually has gone out of business now. But anyway, they would sell me a case of peaches, and I got that for a fairly good deal. The best deal I got, again, on peaches was when I would go to this farm that was 30-minute drive from my house. But I would go there to pick peaches. It was an orchard. And I started doing that because on their website, they were like, hey, it's 55 cents a pound, I think it was, which is really good for peaches. So I would go there like once a week and pick a lot of peaches. And unfortunately, soon after that, they raised the price to the point where it just didn't make sense for me to drive out there and get it. And to this day, I kind of wonder if me going there and picking like 25 to 50 pounds of peaches at a time, I wonder if I had anything to do with that. Point is, I really didn't have much luck buying bulk. And a lot of times it was just random, like Whole Foods would randomly have the yellow mangoes, the Atalfo mangoes by the case for a really good deal. The other thing too, in terms of price, is that the cheapest fruit wasn't always what I wanted to eat. Like, bananas. I didn't want to eat bananas all the time. That was not satisfying to me at all. I wanted lots of papaya. I wanted lots of mangoes. I wanted lots of peaches. I wanted more greens and lots of tomatoes. Like, these are a lot more expensive. And as a result, my diet, I hate to even say this, but my monthly grocery bill regularly exceeded $700 just for me. Like, that is so disgusting to think about now, honestly. And that was the main reason I quit Fully Raw in the first place, was because it was just so incredibly expensive. Point is, this diet is, again, for people who are single and for people who have money. It's no surprise that Christina is rich and doesn't have any children. Selling it as doable for everyone is just totally dishonest. I would have a lot more respect for her if she were honest about who this diet is for and who can actually do this diet. Although, maybe that's not fair. Maybe she's so out of touch with like normal people, quote unquote normal people, and how normal people live, that she really doesn't know that the vast majority of people cannot do this diet. They cannot afford it. They don't have the time for it. Oh, this one's just kind of funny. So she talks about consuming so much liquid, and you're probably worried that by eating this way you're going to be just tied to the bathroom, as she says. When you first start eating more fully raw foods and drinking more juices and smoothies, your body will detox at a much faster rate. Eventually, it becomes accustomed to eating this amount of fiber and liquid. You will cleanse your system and you will not feel as tied to the restroom as you fear. Bullshit. If your breakfast is 2 large glasses of water followed by 32 to 64 ounces of juice or smoothie, you are absolutely going to be pissing a lot. And that is just breakfast. Like, lunch is more water-rich stuff, more fruit and whatnot. Dinner, more fruit and a salad. Again, tons and tons and tons of water. From experience, for those who don't know, I ate this diet. It wasn't called Fully Raw then. It was just low-fat raw or 80-10-10 for years. And during that time, I absolutely peed and pooped a lot more than I do now eating just a normal vegan diet. Raw saves time. That's another thing that Christina likes to say. And again, bullshit. You have to take into account shopping, which can take more time because it's really hard to do like once a week shopping that you can pretty easily do if you're just eating a normal diet with, some fruits and vegetables, but not a ridiculous amount. When you're eating fully raw, everything that you eat is perishable. So it can be really, really hard to just do once a week shopping. And shopping at farmers markets, like Christina recommends, can be really difficult depending on where you live. I know for me, when I was in Memphis, that's where I lived when I was doing this, the farmers markets that I went to were both several miles farther from my house than like my grocery store, which was basically right down the street. And they were only open once a week. And then there's just prep work itself, prepping all the vegetables, cleaning them, cutting them up. If you're just cooking normally, this is most of the time the most time consuming part of cooking, is just cleaning everything and chopping it up. And when you're fully raw, that's all you do. All you're doing is cleaning and chopping produce. When I ate like Christina, I mean, for a long time I ate like pretty much just fruit, which was bad. And then I started eating more vegetables. I started having a large salad at night, every single night. And it took me almost 30 minutes to make the salad, just one salad for myself. And then to eat, it took about 30 minutes. I actually recorded this. I had a video up on my channel where I was like, how long does it take me to eat one of my giant salads? And it took about 27 minutes. Compare that to cooked food. Compare that to something like, some soup. I can make a huge pot of soup, takes like an hour to make, and then I have several servings, and I can have it, the next day for lunch or dinner or whatever. All I have to do is microwave it, and then it takes like 5 minutes to eat. And remember, this is all for one person. I cannot imagine making this every single night, a giant salad for myself, for my partner. So that's like an hour right there just to make salads. Also making some for my toddler, eventually some for tiny baby once they're eating, normal foods. That is not sustainable for those of us who are not single and on constant vacation. Alkalize your body. She has a whole section on alkalizing your body. It's that myth about alkaline forming and acid forming food, and that it can affect the pH of your blood. No, that is not possible. Banana and ice cream tastes like ice cream. Maybe if you've never had ice cream, look, I like banana ice cream. I remember the first time I tried it, I was like, wow, this is really good. It's kind of remarkable how different it tastes from just eating bananas. It's pretty cool, especially if you have a juicer. It's really better if you make it with a juicer, like without the juicing plate or whatever, if you just run it through a juicer, because when you put it in a blender, it gets warm pretty quick and it just starts to turn into like frozen banana soup. It's kind of gross, but if you juice it, it's pretty awesome and it's pretty yummy. But it's not ice cream. Training your stomach muscle. She talks about this pretty early on in the book, which is not surprising. You're eating so much food. The volume is just huge. And so obviously you are going to have to basically stretch your stomach. And of course she presents this as just a good thing to do. I talked about this before. I talked about this in the Bonnie Rebecca video, kind of my speculation that this really took a toll on me. And I think it probably takes a toll on most people who eat this way. Bonnie Rebecca was someone who ate a high carb, high volume diet for a while. I really think that it messed up my digestion. I really think that it made it hard for me to feel satisfied on just normal amounts of food once I went back to eating cooked foods for a long time. I also wonder what it did to my microbiome, just eating so much fruit and so little fat and protein and eating such a restrictive diet for so long. I think promoting this stretching your stomach thing is really bad. I mean, most of the people who try this diet are not going to stick to it. Now, most of them aren't going to stick to it for any amount of time, which is fine. But some of them, like me, will do this for a few years and then probably go back to cooked food at some point. Those people are going to struggle. Anyway, moving on. When talking about the pain you can get from eating melons, particularly watermelon, she says, I like to call this Melon Belly, kind of implying that she came up with the term Melon Belly. She did not. This was something that everyone in the low-fat raw community said. I don't even know who came up with it. Possibly Dawn Bennett, but I'm not really sure, but it definitely was not her. Okay, so here she's talking about calories and volume and trying to present the diet as really great because you get to eat all this food. And she says, a 6-cup serving of raw vegan chili has 295 calories. A 2-cup serving of cooked chili with beans has 573 calories. If you were to eat 6 cups of cooked chili, you would be consuming 1,700 calories in one meal. Most or all of the calories you would need for a day. Yeah, but no one's gonna eat 6 cups of cooked chili. The implication here is that, man, I have some, hearty bean chili here. and I'm eating 2 cups of it, and I really wish I could have 6 cups of it. Like, no, 2 cups of chili is quite a bit of chili. And again, it's a bean chili, like she said, so it's going to be pretty hearty. It's going to have lots of protein. Like, I don't think many people are going to want to eat 6 cups of that. Whereas having to eat 6 cups of Christina's raw chili, that's just vegetables basically, so it's only 300 calories, that sounds awful. You're going to be so stuffed, and you're probably still not going to be satisfied. Like, you're going to be hungry again in like an hour. So another problem, and this is just kind of throughout the book, there are lots of little mistakes. For example, in the raw science section at the end of the book, she says that there are 6 macrominerals. There are actually 7. She excludes sulfur. And then the table is labeled wrong too. It says microminerals over the section that's actually macrominerals. So yeah, there's just kind of little stuff like that throughout the book. And speaking of the raw science section, the section begins with an appeal to nature fallacy, where she says that there aren't any animals in the wild that cook their food. And so, in conclusion, a raw food diet is innately healthy. Unfortunately, the science establishment that studies nutrition looks at the world through a cooked food perspective. So most of the nutritional advice we receive doesn't even consider a fully raw diet as a legitimate lifestyle choice. Yes, that's why the science establishment doesn't recommend a raw food diet. It's not because cooking food improves absorption of various nutrients. It's not because cooking food allows us to eat foods that we can't eat raw, thereby increasing the variety in our diet. It's not because a raw food diet, particularly a low-fat raw one, is incredibly restrictive. It's low in key nutrients. It's expensive. It's time-consuming. It's impossible for most people to stick with. No. The reason why the science establishment doesn't recommend a raw food diet is because of some cooked food conspiracy. Anyway, the raw science section is kind of full of little gems like that. For instance, she promotes the too much protein causes osteoporosis myth that was debunked like years ago. More protein is actually good for bone health, and it's likely very beneficial for the elderly and people with osteoporosis. Okay, so on to the diet itself. Like I said, the book includes a 21-day meal plan and a bunch of recipes to go along with it. Most of the recipes are smoothies and juices because most of the meals are smoothies and juices. Again, if you are familiar with 80-10-10, then you already know what the meal plan looks like basically. It's fruit, more fruit, followed by a giant salad. She also likes to have water beforehand. Like I said before, you have like a bunch of water in the morning, wait 20 minutes, and then have more water essentially in the form of a smoothie or juice. And then have, a smoothie or just a bunch of fruit, like eat like 5 mangoes or something for lunch. And then you eat more fruit at the start of dinner, followed by a huge salad. Some days are a little bit different. Like one day she has her fully raw lasagna for dinner instead of salad, although it's still just made of vegetables and nuts, so it's basically a salad pretending to be lasagna. She also offers desserts on some days, which is just fruit and nuts. So yeah, not much variety, and like I said, a lot of volume. Every day starts with 2 large glasses, followed by 32 to 64 ounces of smoothie or juice. That's nauseating. Pretty much everything is sweet, including a lot of the salads. A lot of the salads have fruit. A lot of the dressings are sweet. They have like orange juice and other fruit blended in. Most of the meals are sweet, which I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to handle. The worst part by far to me is the salad, what she calls the rainbow salad. This is the dinner meal. Again, most nights you're having some fruit followed by a salad. It's just a ridiculous amount of food. She wants you to eat 2 pounds of greens. Not just that though, also 6 cups of vegetables or fruit, just like more produce on top of the 2 pounds of greens, and then more fruits and vegetables and a little bit of nut or avocado in the form of a dressing, totaling a quart of dressing. And you're supposed to eat fruit right before this. Again, I used to eat this way. I used to eat fruit for breakfast, fruit for lunch. I think usually I'd have a snack. It'd be like a little ways before dinner of more fruit. And then I would have my salad. And my salads were huge by like anyone's standards, except for Christina's, I guess, because they weren't anywhere near this size. I would usually have my like standard was about a pound of romaine, several stalks of celery, 2 carrots, a cucumber, like I said, it's a lot, and then a dressing of like lemon juice and some kind of nut. Celery powder, I got big into making celery powder by dehydrating celery because I didn't want to eat salt, so I would spend all this time and money making celery powder. It was really good though. Point is, there is no way I could have added on another pound of greens on top of that. Again, it took me so much time to eat that salad. Like I can't even, physically I couldn't have done it. I was already so full after my salads anyway, but also just in terms of time, like no. Also, she's big on raw kale, which makes sense. Like the only way you're going to get in minerals that you need if you are not eating a lot of nuts and seeds, which obviously you can't do on this diet, it has to be low fat, is to eat a lot of dark leafy greens, not just romaine, but kale. And she often wants you to have an entire bunch of kale in a salad along with other greens, like again, another bunch or head of romaine as well. Yeah, raw kale, no. There is a reason why I rarely ever ate it while I was raw. It is disgusting and incredibly hard to chew. Even when you marinate it, raw foodists would always say to marinate it in, a bunch of, liquid, a dressing or whatever that you've made, and that'll make it soft. No, it makes it softer, but it's still raw kale. So I think that's the biggest problem, honestly, is that even if this diet were healthy, even if it met all of your nutrient needs, it's not possible for most of us to do it. We physically cannot eat that amount of food. And of course, it's not healthy. So I put the first 7 days into Chronometer. I was going to do the entire 21 days, but it was obvious that there was no need to. Like 7 days were representative of the entire thing. Again, you're basically eating the same thing every day. And I have Chronometer set to meet the needs of a 130-pound woman. So in terms of vitamins, everything's good pretty much, except for obviously B12 and D, but everything else, I mean, obviously you're going to get tons of vitamin K and folate and B vitamins and vitamin C, vitamin E as well, because you're just eating so many greens. But when we get to minerals, it's a different story. Every single day that I logged, all 7 days were very low in selenium, which is really silly because Brazil nuts are like the best source of selenium. You only need a tiny, tiny bit to meet your selenium needs. Christina doesn't even have one recipe in the book that includes Brazil nuts. I'm beginning to think that people who aren't dietitians probably shouldn't be selling diets to people. Sodium is also always very low. Again, easy to fix, just a little bit of salt or some seaweed. But of course, this is essentially 80-10-10, which doesn't want you eating salt or seaweed. Now, Christina does use salt in some of her recipes. She has, not in this book, but some of the recent recipes on her channel do include a little bit of Himalayan salt. And she also has a recipe that she uploaded just this year, just a couple months ago, that includes some kelp noodles. So again, she's using seaweed as well. So I guess she has changed her mind on those things, but obviously the book is still anti-salt and seaweed. And again, without salt, specifically iodized salt, and without seaweed, the diet is going to be very low in iodine. Magnesium, potassium, stuff like that is going to be fine. Again, you're eating so much produce. Zinc, iron, and calcium are fine on most days, but that's just because of the insane amount of greens, which again, most people are not going to be able to eat that amount. Christina even encourages that, saying like, hey, if you can't finish the salad, just eat as much as you can. It's fine. But someone eating a quarter or even a half of one of her rainbow salads is not going to meet their needs for a lot of these minerals. And even if you are able to eat all of these vegetables, all of the salad, you still may not meet all of your needs. I would really worry about bioavailability from raw foods, particularly tough foods like kale, like all the dark leafy greens that are hard to chew. And these foods, kale and broccoli and other dark leafy greens, this is where like most of the minerals are coming from in Christina's diet, in this diet that she's recommending. Extracting all of the nutrients out of these foods without cooking or at the very least blending is going to require so much chewing, if that's even possible. The same for protein, which is all over the place. Some days provide about enough for, again, like standard sedentary woman, about 50 grams of protein, but they're often still low in essential amino acids like lysine and leucine. And the days that do provide enough protein, including enough of all of the essential amino acids, hinge on you eating a shit ton of vegetables. So again, that's going to be hard to do. And even if you can do it, I would worry about bioavailability. The calories are also all over the place. Like there are a couple days, one day is like 2,500 calories. One day is almost 3,000 calories. And then there's another day that's like less than 1,500 calories. And some of the info is really confusing. Like the way she has the book set up is that you have the meal plan and it's like day one, and it has the names of the recipes and they're hyperlinked so that they take you to the actual recipe and what you need to do. But also in the meal plan section, like after she lists the names, she kind of explains it more, I guess. And sometimes it doesn't quite coincide with what's listed in the recipe. It's a little bit different. So that's kind of confusing. The best example is on day 6, she has the fully raw lasagna for dinner. And when you click on the link and you go to the recipe, it says it makes 6 servings. Okay, so I assume your dinner is going to be 1 serving of that lasagna, which is only about 200 calories. So not many calories at all. But then on the next day, on day 7 for breakfast, Christina says, last night's dinner was heavier than most of the dinners in this program. Okay, so clearly a 200 calorie dinner is not heavy by any means. So does she want you to eat more than a serving? Does she want you to eat half of the recipe, the entire recipe? I mean, that's really heavy. That's like 1,200 calories. And like her salad's pretty much impossible to eat. It includes, for the noodles, 5 large zucchinis, raw zucchinis. So yeah, that's something that if I were following this, I would be very confused, like how much I'm supposed to eat of this thing. Again, I think she would just say, well, you eat as much as you want. But again, when the diet is so finicky, is that the right word? Like you have to be so careful about what you're eating because so many calories are coming from fruit, which are just not a good source of calories because they don't have a lot going for them except a bunch of vitamins, which you can get just by eating like very little produce at all. You can meet those needs for like folate, vitamin C, 1 orange gives you all the vitamin C you need. A little bit of greens gives you all the folate, stuff like that. It's pretty easy to meet those needs with just a little bit of produce. But yeah, you're eating all of this fruit. You're getting all of these calories from fruit and they're providing basically nothing in terms of minerals and protein and fat. So to make up for that, you have to eat so many vegetables. And if you're just like, no, I only want a little bit of the salad, you're gonna suffer. I mean, you're gonna suffer anyway, because again, if you're doing exactly what she says and eating exactly what she says, you're still low on selenium, you're still low on iodine, you're still low on sodium. So this is garbage, obviously. The only day that comes close to meeting nutrient needs is almost 3,000 calories. And even still, it's still low in selenium and sodium. It's still not good. A diet that makes you eat almost 1,000 calories more than you need to almost meet nutrient needs is clearly a pretty terrible diet. So that's the book. And I don't know why, but I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I guess, she's charging people money. So I guess I assumed that it would at least be somewhat different from what she offers for free, just like on YouTube on her channel, but it's really not. It's the same exact stuff. If you watch her videos, you already know all this stuff. You already have access to a bunch of recipes. And again, like most of the recipes in this book are just, you could come up with it on your own. It's just like bananas blended with other fruit for a smoothie, or like, oh, don't use bananas, use mangoes instead. Like it's nothing special. And if you really do want a bunch of recipes, then just buy her app. I think her app is like $4, so it's cheaper and it'll give you the recipes. The meal plan is totally pointless anyway in the book because you already know how she eats. Again, if you watch her videos, if you watch her What I Ate Today's, it's fruit in the morning, fruit for lunch, fruit for dinner, and then a giant salad. Although she seems to have changed that lately. She seems to be eating, doing more like green juices and stuff. So who knows? I mean, this is typical, right? Most people do not keep eating this diet because it's bad. It's unsustainable. And at some point you're gonna you're gonna need other stuff, you know. So yeah, again, the book, you know, it's like I said earlier, the other information, the exercise stuff, it's pretty generic. You know, you can just find that online for free. The food and diet is generic as well in terms of low fat raw. Again, it's just 80-10-10. As she says at the beginning, it follows the outline of the 80-10-10 diet. Yeah, it's exactly the 80-10-10 diet. It's like when she says the whole, you know, I call it Melon Belly, implying that she came up with it. No, like she didn't come up with any of this stuff. It's 80-10-10, but repackaged as fully raw. So yeah, you know, I'm not trying to crack down on someone's hustle and like, you know, keep people from making money, but this is not something that should be making someone money. This is bad. It's a terrible book. It's nothing new, number one, which, okay, whatever. A lot of stuff isn't particularly new. There are a lot of diet books out there that are really good that aren't really new. It's just compiling information, and that can be really useful, obviously. There are a lot of people who don't know that information, and it's hard for them to go out to all these different sources and find it. So a book having all of that information together can be very, very useful. But like the 80-10-10 diet book already exists. Like those books already exist in terms of what Christina is selling. And then also the diet is just bad. It's a terrible, terrible thing to sell to people. And it's really disappointing because I'm guessing most of her audience is women, probably a lot of young women. And it's very disheartening to me that they are going to try this diet. And, you know, again, a lot of them are not going to stick with it. A lot of them aren't even going to do fully raw at all. You know, a lot of them maybe just one fully raw meal a day, which is great. You know, people eating more fruits and vegetables, awesome. That's no problem. But a few of them will do the diet, and they will do it long term, and they will potentially fuck themselves up. And that sucks. But, you know, again, Christina has been making changes. Oh, I forgot to say she uses like protein powder now, seemingly pretty regularly. I don't know, I guess I haven't watched a recipe video in a while, but I feel like for a long time, like almost every recipe she put up, if it were like a smoothie or a dessert or something, included protein powder. So that's good. And that's typically what you see. That's kind of how it starts. You know what I mean? Like the move back to a more normal diet that includes toxic cooked food, you know? It's usually like you start using a little bit of protein powder, you start using garlic, you start using seaweed, you start using salt, and then before you know it, you're eating potatoes, and then you're eating beans, and then you're like, oh my god, why did I ever eat like mostly fruit? That was terrible. It's a problem for her because obviously she has made her money doing this. She has branded herself as fully raw. Changing that is going to be difficult for her, but it would not surprise me at all if she does it at some point. I really, really hope she does. I really hope she's not keeping herself from doing it because she's worried like about her brand. That's really bad for her, obviously, and it's really bad for her followers as well. I really hope that she's being honest with herself, and if she wants to start eating cooked food again, or if she's not really convinced anymore that the fully raw diet is the best diet, that she goes forth with that and starts eating cooked food and tells her channel. Because honestly, that would only be a good thing for her channel. She would gain so many more viewers because let's be honest, like, yeah, I think she has 500,000 subs, or maybe she has 1 million subs now, something like that. She has a lot of subscribers. But if you look at her views for a lot of her videos, they're not great. They're not super great. I think she would do a lot better if she did more standard diet stuff. And just coming out and saying like, yeah, I was wrong is awesome and will bring a lot of people to you because people want that. People want that honesty. This sounds like I'm saying she's dishonest. I have no idea, but it would not surprise me. She's been doing this a long time. It would not surprise me if part of her feels like, I wish I didn't have to do this anymore. I wish I could eat some fucking potatoes. You know, I wish I could eat some goddamn beans. I wish I could eat something warm. That would be pretty nice. It would not surprise me if on some level, even if it's kind of subconsciously, she feels that way, but she won't even let herself entertain it because the brand. But I guess that's it. You know, if you go to the reviews, you'll see a lot of good reviews, although apparently she did some shady, like, hey, if you give me a review and I like the review, I'll send you a Vitamix, or something like that. Some people in the reviews on Amazon talk about it. They're just like, this is not cool. So, yeah, that might have swayed things a little bit. The reviews might not be trustworthy, but if you go to like the people who gave it 1 or 2 stars, you see a lot of like what the hell? This is all fruit. It's all sweet meals. This is gross. It's all like smoothies and juices and stuff. What is this? So that's it. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe, support the channel, patreon.com/unnaturalvegan, and I will have a new video very soon. I hate matte lipstick. It's great. It's great for me because I chew my lips like crazy and it really keeps me from doing it. But man, it just feels, it's so dry. Man, my lips are like the desert. They're just awful. Wasn't that my New Year's resolution for 1 year? It was to stop chewing my lips. Yeah, I gave up on that. It's not possible for me. I can't do it. I did stop again. I've stopped twice in my life. One time years and years ago. No idea why. I thought it was like stress because I was kind of less stressed during that period. So I thought it was that. And then again, very recently, just last year, I stopped again for like a few months. And it just dawned on me, oh my God, I haven't been chewing my lips. That's amazing. I was stressed though. Like it was a really, really stressful period. So I was like, okay, why? And then just randomly started chewing them again. Didn't even really know I was doing it. Just all of a sudden like, oh crap, I'm chewing my lips again. So yeah, I've just totally given up. You know, I'll put on this sometimes when I feel like having just Sahara Desert lips, but most of the time I don't. And most of the time I just chew. And usually I don't realize I'm chewing until I accidentally like pull too much off. Oh, and it bleeds. And I'm like, oh, fuck. There are worse vices, I guess, right? There are worse things to be addicted to, quote unquote. So, it's not so bad.